Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar Bio and BELDI Trade Network in Germany. Before we begin, we will wait two more minutes in order for other participants to join us. Hello everyone and welcome to the fourth webinar of our series Bio and BELDI, which is dedicated to producers and companies who want to exploit new export potentials in the organic and BELDI agri-industry. My name is Sarah Suam and I'm responsible for the business desk Casablanca of the German Chamber of Industry and Commerce in Morocco in cooperation with the GIZ Special Initiative on Training and Job Creation. This webinar is organized within this initiative, which was launched by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, and which is also known under the brand name Invest for Jobs. It is currently present in 8 countries in Africa, including Morocco. Here, the initiative exists since 2018 and is implemented by the Project Partnership and Support for Medium-Sized Companies by the GIZ Morocco. For more details on the special initiative, you can also consult our fact sheet, which we will send you after the webinar, also together with the presentation of today. And you can also download the fact sheet in the download section in this webinar. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce to you our speakers of today, Mr. Cyriacus Schultze, who is an industry expert for sales, brand and digital excellence in the B2B environment at the German F&B consultancy Food and Wine Culture, as well as Mr. Ingo Dierkes, who is a marketing and import and export expert in the F&B sector for more than 20 years, and both have a wide international experience in different cultures and countries. Our experts will speak to you about distribution techniques, sales points, and appropriate supply chains, especially for organic products on the German market. Some information about the procedure of this webinar. During the presentation, I invite you to ask your questions or comments in the chat section, and we will answer all your questions after the presentation in a in the Q&A part of this webinar. Now I'm very happy to give the word to our presenters of today, to our experts, Mr. Schultze. So the floor is yours, and I wish you a very interesting webinar.
Thank you so much. Okay, ready to start. So I would like to start this webinar here discovering the potentials in the business economic landscape and talk about the trade structures today a little bit. By starting, we have quite a lot ground to cover. I would like to start actually with a huge thank you, first of all, to the Chamber of Commerce to have us today, and especially to Mrs. Sarah Swam from the business desk in Casablanca. For us, it's a huge privilege and a great honor to do this today to you. And of course, for all questions which come after the webinar, we are available for you by email or by telephone, whatever you need. So during this hour, we will cover a lot of ground, talking about exporting to other countries, or especially to Germany and the DACH region, which are German-speaking countries, just like Austria, Switzerland, and of course, Germany. In order to make it more easy to you, I have divided the entire thing into 3 different chapters. We will talk about trade structures and give a brief introduction into the German food and beverage sector. We will talk about the food and beverage industry, about numbers here and different figures and statistics. Then we will flip over to a little bit like a framework about doing business in Germany, about banks, payment systems, logistics. And in case we have some time overlap, we can also talk about some cultural differences, which are not unimportant if you do business with Germany, and have some possible very interesting insights into that. Shortly about us. Food and Wine Culture is a small consulting company. We are based in Germany, in Heidelberg, in the heart of Germany, near Frankfurt, but we have offices in various German cities. Our customers are mainly from the, or only from the food and beverage industry. That might be distributors or manufacturers of let's say, machine manufacturers, or people from the organic business, farmers, producers, distributors, or even wholesalers. We are relatively small as a consulting company, and we are not like a consulting firm like one of the more international huge firms which do a lot of legal work and finance work and corporate work. We don't do that. We are only focused on food and beverage. That's our forte. We do this for about 30 years now, and we are in a huge array of different industries here. In order to cover that, we have built up an expert network, which are food and beverage experts. It's called like that. And these 25 roughly experts we have in our team, they are in many various industries, covering bakery products or organic or wine and beer, coffee, agribusiness, food technology, packaging, and so on and so on. So this team is available always when there is a special question on a specific topic, and that's where our specialists then come in. For myself, I've been working for many years in other countries. I lived and worked in North and South America, in Asia, and here in Europe. I have been working really in a lot of industries in the food and beverage business, in olive oil production, in wine production, in coffee, meat and wine, and so on. So yes, I think I have a lot of experience also that I can cover. But most importantly, I would like to introduce you at this moment with my dear colleague and friend Ingo Dierkes, who is an experienced sales and key account manager in our team. And his strong part, of course, is communication and languages. So he will be acting as a liaison manager or a contact in case you prefer to communicate in French. So, cher Ingo, sois donc assez gentil de présenter brièvement à notre public. Merci.
Ja, salam alaikum, mesdames et messieurs. Mon nom, c'est Ingo Dierkes. C'est un grand plaisir d'être avec vous, avec la Chambre de commerce du Maroc, avec Madame Souam. Et en effet, je suis dans les ventes il y a plus de 35 années. Je suis un amant du Maroc, vu du fait que j'ai visité plusieurs fois le Maroc, j'ai fait des affaires avec le Maroc. Et je crois sincèrement qu'il y a une grande base de coopération entre le Maroc et l'Allemagne. Et moi, je suis spécialiste pour démarrer les affaires, pour identifier des nouveaux contacts. Et de ce fait-là, ça sera un grand plaisir de coopérer avec vous et de communiquer avec vous par intermédiaire de M. Schultze. Je vous souhaite une excellente journée et à très bientôt. Merci.
Okay, merci Ingo. Thank you so much. So we just dive in and start really with the matter and the subjects we are talking today about. Our first part is about trade structures and the commercial segments in the food and beverage landscape in Germany. In a nutshell, it's not very different from other countries in the EU. It's very similar to what we have in Portugal, in Spain, in Italy, and in other countries. And of course, also our partners with a privileged partnership such as Morocco. So our trade industry is divided into domestic trade and international trade. And the domestic trade, it includes wholesale and retail trade. And well, the retail trade is in different segments as well, but we focus only on the B2B business and the wholesale part, which is for resellers and for large-scale consumers, which we call B2B Großhandel here in Germany. Of course, there is a very big array. Let's say there are many different ways of trade channels in Germany, and our distribution network is quite well organized. We have, let's say, transport and sales channels by train, by ship. We have a quite big network of trains and also of warehouses and wholesalers all over the country, from where the merchandise then is sold to the end consumers and at different markets. Basically, in Germany, for the end consumers, we just have a short glimpse on that. We have 4 different markets here, which are the supermarkets, which are traditionally small ones in the midst of cities. We have large supermarkets, which are more outside the big cities with larger sales areas. We cover those grounds also in hypermarkets, which are more like shopping centers. We could say where normally, let's go back here, where we have shopping centers with gastronomy, restaurants inside, and big markets inside, which not only sell food products, but also wine and cooking material and so on. And then we have a very large segment, which are the discounters in Germany, which is very important because Germans, unlike other ones in Europe, do not spend so much money on food. They like to buy relatively cheap and always are looking for a bargain. So discounters are quite popular and very important also in the bio and in the organic sector. So you might ask, okay, is this everything we have as trade channels? And of course we do not, because there is a very interesting segment which is growing more and more. This is the e-commerce, of course. And the e-commerce, if we look at it, there are different segments. B2C, we have the C2C segment, but today we would be more interested in the B2B channels and in the social and content commerce, which is here. So it is really a huge market and it is growing all the time. The question is, which is the right channel for you here? Because if you look in the European landscape, there are many, many different kinds of e-commerce channels. And it is, in a presentation like this one, not so easy to give a general recommendation. Every country has its specifics and has different platforms. Of course, Amazon is quite a market leader, and Amazon Fresh, especially for food products and fresh organic products. But it depends a lot on your product and on the industry you're in. So if you would be in the wine industry, that would be different e-commerce channels than, for example, if you are in the vegetables or in the fruit business. So depending on the target audience and on the product, we would have to analyze this a little bit more in detail, where we don't have time right now to do this. Anyway, I would like to just give you a general idea on the development of the e-commerce in Germany. And as you can see, between 2006 and today, it is a huge growing business. And today we are generating 99 billion euros in only e-commerce. So the question is really, if you are in the organic production of food, is that really something important for you? And yes, it is, especially in France, in England, and in Germany. People are ordering more and more and doing more and more shopping on web platforms. So the same is true for the B2B segment. More and more deliveries and purchases and also research are done on the internet. And there are more and more companies coming up and a lot of startups really in the e-commerce landscape are growing here. So this is really a segment you should be aware of, and well, yes, get also your feet into that. Now, the internationalization, it seems to be easy from another country to just have a platform and a marketplace there, but it is really combined with a lot of challenges. Each country has its own marketplace and its topography, and the players are different in every sector. So because of the different situations in every country and the customer needs, and also the laws and the custom barriers, the logistical structures, it is a complicated matter. And I would like to give you some more details exactly on that structure in Germany. So here are some key indicators and trade statistics and issues that affect the trade. In Germany, we have at the moment 84 million inhabitants. And yes, the economy is strong still. We are in Europe, maybe the largest and the most potent economy. And it says that we are the first most important economy in the world. And the minimum wages in Germany for workers in factories and plants, that issue is important in case you want to open a warehouse or you would like to establish a company or an office representing you in Germany. Minimum wages are here right now at 12 euros per hour. And our unemployment rate is a little bit under 5%. However, unemployment rates cannot be generalized for Germany because it depends really in which area in Germany you're looking at. So especially in the east part of Germany, we don't have so much migrants and so much people from other countries. So in that part, unemployment rates is higher. And in the part which are more industrialized and where, for example, is a lot of food production, industrial food production, like, for example, dairy products, or also other industries like the car industries in the south of Germany, the unemployment rate is much lower. So, for example, in the south, like Baden-Württemberg or in Bavaria, we are between 2 and 3.5% of unemployment rate. So that affects a lot in Germany where you are. This matter always comes up when you talk about Germany, because there is not one Germany. It really depends a little bit on the different provinces and states we have inside Germany where you're going. The same is true, for example, for our foreign population where you're looking at. And that is important also if you decide to build a representation office or a warehouse in Germany. For your industry, it should be taken into consideration exactly where it should be. It could be a huge failure in case you're selecting the wrong area in Germany, like Hamburg or like Munich, if your product is not relating very much with the people there. So this is something to keep in mind. The complete population in Germany is divided, we could say 70% approximately is Germans, and 25% are migrant background populations, which is actually something we welcome and we embrace a lot, because it gives us a huge variety in culture and also in food. And you could tell that the German mentality when it comes to consuming products and choosing products has broadened a lot during the last maybe 15, 20 years. And today it is extremely interesting to go into a supermarket in Germany where you might find a variety of products you wouldn't have seen here 15 years ago. So also looking to the very different areas in Germany, again, there is not one Germany. There is a huge difference between the city parts where you might have Frankfurt, Stuttgart, Hamburg, or Munich, and also the rural areas, which you might see in the map here as green, where you have a huge landscape and natural parks. So Germany is very different and very various in its structure. If you have a market overview about the German economy, fourth largest in the world, I have already said. So the economy in Germany is a little bit a social market with a, as I put it here, considerable degree of government regulations. And yes, we have a lot of social welfare in Germany as well. Germany accepts the EU Common Policy for Agriculture, which means that we are very careful when it comes to biotech products. We had a case of that, for example, you might remember with the US and with Canada when they wanted to import chicken from Canada. And Europe declined that, and Germany as well, because it is treated with chlorine in order to get the meat white. And this is something which in Germany is not regarded as really healthy and good. So part of this policy of the EU, we also respected that. And you need to know that if you import to Germany, if those laws or things applied. Safety and environmentally things are also very important here in Germany. And we have high levels of productivity and very high skilled labor. The infrastructure is really good. Transport is really good. We have, if you send something from within Germany, let's say from Hamburg to Munich, which is the largest distance you can have, this is overnight without any express or something. It's just that the infrastructure is really good in Germany for trade channels. So this is the general market overview. Now I would like to go a little bit more into numbers and give you a little bit idea of what we import here. So of course, computer hardware and electronics, if we look into what is on our top ranking list, electronics and cars and car parts are top of it. But then already on part 4 and a little bit later on, you see that food products, machines, and also agricultural products like fruit or vegetables or farming products are quite high in the number of import. Of course, it is a little bit difficult in Germany to give a general idea about import taxes. So we have a regulation that every product has a different import tax and special regulations. If you have car parts, this is one thing. If you have books, it's a different one. And in food, it's not only food. It depends really what kind of food. And we have like maybe 40 or 50 different under chapters in order to see which kind of taxes apply to the products when they are imported into Germany. The key numbers in the food sector, as we put it here, of course, have no meaning at all. We need to see what this is about. So 5.5 million people are employees in the farm sector and in the food sector. We could say from farm to fork, actually, and that is representing a huge part. It's more than 10% of our entire workforce that are working in the food business. We have like 650,000 different kind of businesses working in the food industry. That might be restaurants, that might be production companies, that could be retail businesses. And the products are really huge in the shelves. 170,000 different food products right now are in the shelves. The turnover is with 185 billion euros in 2018. We are still waiting for more current data from 2020 or 21. Quite huge. And yes, we also have a large number of competing businesses. So when you place yourself with a business in Germany, it's very important to analyze the competitors and the people working already in that part in order not to dump too fastly into a price competition, because what you want to avoid is really at first hand start into price comparison and talk only about the value and the price. It's more about other things and about the quality of the product, which the focus should be on. Well, when we have, or we are talking about the business of trade channels and trade generally with food products. What are food products? Of course, these are fruit and vegetables, cereals, oilseed, meat, poultry, and all these other products. But there's much more than that. The food industry also has packaging materials. There are bottles and jars and cups and foils, and the vitamin and flavor industry is quite large in Germany as well, and we have a lot of demand for these products. Besides to that, there is more. We do have food processing technology, for all these kind of products we want to have in the shelves for the end consumers. So all that needs to be manufactured. In case we don't import it, in this case we need the industry and the machines to do it. So this is part of the food industry as well as the technology, logistics, the presentation of goods, the marketing, the clothing, the furniture, which is for the gastronomy and hotel business, and so on. So this is a huge business, and to have in mind, it is not only about food we are talking, it's the entire value chain within. The businesses, the distribution of businesses in the German landscape is that in agriculture we have 262,000 businesses. This is not the value or the money here, it's really the number of enterprises and companies we have, which might have more than 15 to 20 employees. You also see that in the hospitality industry, in the HoReCa sector, hotel, restaurants, and catering, they are employed a lot of people. However, if you look into the food processing industry and the wholesale industry, you might say, okay, not so many business is actually here, but this is because of the expensive production costs in Germany, and because also there are some major players which dominate the market, such as Rewe or Metro or Edeka, which are in distribution really the big players here. When you look into the numbers, you will see that the food processing industry and the retailing generate more money than every other business. So here are the numbers in food retailing. It's like 238 million euros, and in wholesale the same, and then the food processing industry is also generated the largest amount of money, while in the hospitality industry where a lot of people are working, and in agriculture there are not so many sales in there. It is like many times that the last in the chain is the farmer himself, who is not getting the just price for his work. And this is something we are trying to change since 15-20 years, where we really try to give more value to these parts. Still, it has generated a lot of money in the wholesale and in the retail industry, of course. When we look at the import numbers, let's have a look at the fresh vegetables and the fruit we do produce. In vegetables, we do 4 million tons of fresh vegetables every year and 1.2 million tons on fresh fruit. The difference is because of the climate. Germany has no olives, Germany has no tropical fruit. We mostly have berries and products which grow in the short summer season. So we need to import more fresh fruit than vegetables. Importing, you can see it reflects in the numbers, 3.5 million tons of vegetables is what we import, which is the same amount that we produce ourselves. But in fresh fruit, we import a lot more. You also can see that the numbers in the last years since, let's say 2011, has risen a lot. It is growing all the time, and this demand and this import is still growing. That is also because we have more and more population here and more people living in Germany. And of course, so the consumer demand is growing as well. When you're looking at the products which are imported, there is a huge array of products, and we should have a specific look on the top 10 or maybe on the top 5 of the products. So in relation, you see that milk and dairy products are really a huge import. That comes also from the eastern countries, where we import a lot of milk powder, also from India. But there are fruit and vegetables in the second position, which is quite nice for everybody who's in the agriculture business. Meat is also a huge business and one of the largest import numbers, as are oils, fats, and fish products as well. Within the fresh vegetables and fruit things, we also have a little specification on that. Oranges are very important. Tomatoes, bananas are the fruit which are very popular here, and where we have the largest amount of imports. There is a trend which is a worldwide trend, but we have it specifically in Germany, which is the vegetarian and the vegan trend. And if you look in the world balance, you see that Germany is really ahead of them. And we do have a lot of vegans and vegetarians, especially in the younger generation under, let's say, 35 years. So they give a lot of importance to a healthy lifestyle, sports, non-alcoholic beverages, and you can see that the numbers are growing as well. So everybody involved in business that has to do with agriculture, natural products, organic products, bio products are really on the right track for Germany, and there is a huge market for that. I would like to give you a short statistic on the products which we have here in the industries. Meat products, milk products, bread are the most important ones, as you can see. But I'm very sure that in a near future, the meat and the dairy products will have a little loss, while it will be replaced more and more by organic products and by plant-based products. You can see that already, that meat is replaced by similar plant products with soy protein and other things, also stem cells production, in order not to do really cattle and having meat industry. So that will be having a huge influence in the future and might reduce meat and dairy products perhaps by 30 or 35%. There is another very important influence in our industry, and I would like to give you a little idea and example of that. This picture of Earth was taken when I was 11 years old. It was the first picture of our planet, actually, that we had as a real and not Photoshopped picture. And it influenced an entire generation because it became a symbol for that time. It was on every magazine. You could see it worldwide, and everybody started asking themselves, how are we connected? What is our place in the world and in the universe? And it was the beginning of ecology and of globalization. And so it started, and this is going on now for 40, 45 years, that it is becoming stronger and stronger. And if you look at this strange thing today, we again encounter something on all magazines and all covers and all screens. And we might imagine how this will be when we look back in 10 years, have influenced our society as well in consume and in trade. It has a lot of symbolic power. And for the meanwhile, it dominates our lives and our industry with lockdowns and a lot of other things. And now, who would have guessed that also this thing is influencing us a lot, because nobody would have guessed that at the really borders of Europe, we will have a war going on. So that also affects our work and our lives and our food supply chains a lot. Gasoline prices are, prices for flour and oilseeds are going up because of this war. So this is influencing a lot as well our industry. To give you an example, really on the real market, what is happening. Maybe you remember these pictures you might have seen on TV or in some newspaper. The way how we produce and how we import goods right now from our worldwide supply chains are really fragile. The complete lockdown blocked ports, like in Shanghai, for example, where containers over containers are stocked there and cannot leave. The pandemic outbreak or simply accidents are blocking things like the international container supply. We had this Hawaii in the Suez Channel, where for a couple of days, up to weeks, everything was blocked. And that means that the products don't arrive in Europe. So in consequence, trade is critically questioned today, and just-in-time supply chains, we understand that those are fragile. The younger generations now coming up, really like the millennials and the Generation X, they are really critical about that, about chains in general, but also about the climate and about regional production, trying to give this more importance. And all these things have a huge impact on our economy. So what is happening? Well, we are focusing back more on our regional possibilities. So the social change that is happening because of a generation shift, we have a food revolution when it comes to how people treat themselves, what they eat, what they drink, and how they work. And it is happening that there is more and more a focus on Europe in order to get the products directly from here and our neighbors. So the problems in Europe, of course, we have some cons, and we have them especially in high salary countries like UK, like in France or in Germany. Our production cost is high. The availability of all products are not there. Labor costs are high, and we do have shortage of personnel finding good stuff, and the capacities are limited in Germany because it's a quite narrow and packed country. Development times in Germany are important as well. They take a lot of time here when it comes to the implementation and innovation of new products, because Germans are doing this very precise and very on a long scale, while, for example, Americans or other countries or Asians would be very quick and learning in the process, while Germans really tend to do it more perfectly. So these could be seen as some cons and things that speaks again against the production in Germany. On the other hand, we have very short supply chains. When we look in Germany, we are more flexible. The transport costs are lower, of course, and the culture is something which we share in common. Our European culture, we can see this right now in these months, is really holding us together. Of course, we have one currency here in Europe mostly. That makes also trade much more easy. And the environmentally friendly surrounding is also a common goal we do have, and we try to produce products more environmentally friendly and have a focus on that kind of things because of the climate change. So since we know we cannot do everything ourselves in Germany or even in the neighbor countries, we are looking a little bit on the global landscape or in the far European scape, but try to do something more in our regional thing. And this is what we are calling glocal, which is a combination of two words of global and local. And this is a trend which I'm very sure we will see during the next couple of years, coming more and more to that. So doing business in Germany, I also would like to give you some details and a short insight into how we work and what are our ways of payment, for example. When you do business in Germany, for example, other than other countries, we do not have checks. So personal checks and cash is not seen as a way of working here in Germany. We do have bank accounts, transfer and online banking. That is the normal way in business, in the B2B landscape, how to do the direct transfer of money and payments. The consumers do direct debit and have credit cards, of course. PayPal and Apple Pay are the methods of choice for more and more people. But in the B2B business, this is not very common. So still here it is bank accounts and transfers against billing. Logistically speaking, there are some international companies which are quite strong, like FedEx, for example, or TNT. We don't have those very strongly in Germany. We work mostly in here with DHL, with Hermes, with DPD, UPS, and of course with local shipping companies, which are distributed between Spain, Portugal, Holland, and Germany. And when it comes to conventions and marketing things in Germany, we are quite popular with those. Of course, COVID had its tribute, and it stopped for 2-3 years, and it's still a little bit low. But we do have in Germany between 160 and 180 different trade shows for all kinds of industries. So it is still the best way to meet the key players in the business, which is the German Mittelstand, which is a little bit the medium-sized privately owned companies between, let's say, 20, 30 and 150 to 200 employees. those is really are regarded as the backbone of the German industry, and conventions, fairs, and trade shows are the best way to meet them directly and make contact there. One more thing. When you go to Germany, of course, it is also important for you as an exporter, or for us as you are importer, to understand the expectations towards you, or what German companies would expect to an import company. Above everything else, it is that fairness, trust, and reliability is the key really to every business here in Germany. Compliance with agreed delivery deadlines, quality is something we have high standards, and we regard this as a must. Availability, honest, open communication is also very important. Support in media relations are expected. So if you import to Germany, companies here, especially representative office and agents, would like to know in which way you were able to support them with your marketing material, which of course should be in German. Because mostly here, even everybody learns English in school, or even French. The dominating language in business is still German, with exception of the IT business. But especially in the food industry, it is still German. So marketing support is something that would be expected. Fair working conditions in the country of production are also something which are important. And people do send inspectors, and people would like to know really what are the working conditions in your country. Are they up to high standards we generally have in Europe? And yes, we do expect a solution-oriented work and customer focus. So in the end, it is not about only the business itself. It is also about what value does the customer has out of your product, what is really the benefit there might be. And what they expect a lot here is immediate solutions or reporting of problems. So if there is a delay in your production line or with transport, the people here will expect you to report this as soon as possible. They will not be angry about it, because everybody understands the dependency on international supply chains, but they would like to be informed. So excuses in that matter are not really helping to build trust. And yes, also efforts towards sustainability and environmental protection in your company are regarded as a plus and as a top thing. So as a last point, I would like to talk about the market entry here, and give you some short ideas about the market dynamics. Again, this is something which is quite complicated, so we give it very short understanding and an insight here. When you go to the markets here in Germany, you should know your competitors, and you should be aware and well, really prepared for the business here. You should have the flexibility to adapt your products to the preferences of the market here, and invest enough time to really come to the market. So 2 to 3 years in order to be in the market and to really have a standing here should be regarded as a minimum time. And of course, it understands itself that you should visit the country before doing business with it. The growth markets in the industry right now are certain agricultural products, as I said before, because of the vegan and vegetarian trends. Production of technology is also always yes, and regarded as interesting. In the snack and convenience industry, recycled and degradable packaging is important. The high quality of products is seen important, and it is not only in the food business that we have that, but also in the other industries like automobile or IT industry. When you go to Germany, there is a lot of things you should consider and know, but we are able and see ourselves as a possibility, a facilitator in understanding all these kind of different things you have to be aware of when coming to Germany. So your first contact should be always with the local chamber of commerce in Germany. you should have some kind of German website, or at least a German-speaking subsidiary of your website and internet presence, also in social media. The company must be registered in the public notary here, and you should also present yourself in the local trade department, in the tax office, and there is a lot of other labor office and security offices which need to be considered when you do business in Germany. And there are legal aspects, of course, as well. So for shipping and transport, you need special certifications and numbers, which is more for the import and for the transportation companies, which normally are aware of all that. And of course, there is a thing in food compliance. So the Chamber of Commerce knows that. There's a Chamber of Agriculture, which regards things of food safety, and you need certain certifications when you want to export to Germany in order to really declare your products as organic and bio. If you go to Germany, the entry strategy really is, it is a strategic decision how to do that. And as I said in the beginning, don't treat Germany as a whole. Look for the region where you're really going to, because there's cultural differences between North and South. You should consider to have an experienced representative in the country that might facilitate and make things easier simply for you. And you cannot, that is something quite funny, you cannot give Germans enough information about any of your products, because questions will arise, and as more information you give in the beginning, the easier initializing a contact or a work relationship will be. When you go to the market, do your research. Every business step is important, and you need to understand the market really and who are the competitors. I already mentioned that part. And networking on trade shows are a huge, big thing to do. And also understand or see if there is somebody you could relate to who has a very good existing network for your products and could make the entry for you easier. And there, as a last point, is a thing that we tend to recommend in our consulting company, always to look for the blue oceans. The blue ocean and the red ocean strategy and politics are a very big issue. There are books about that. I don't want to go into that because our time is, we are also already in 40 minutes. So it is basically something that says, don't go into the markets where everybody is fishing, because this market is only about price and only about hard competition. Look for alternatives where your market product, even if it's the same product, could have an added value or a benefit that people have not thought of. So it is always easier to invent something new or give some new ideas. And that could be actually even in vegetables and in fruit business, but as well in industrial products. And if you have a local sales representative already in Germany, there might be things you might consider or think, because in order to broaden your business here, it could be interesting also to expand within German-speaking countries, like in the DACH region, which are Austria and Switzerland. It's very easy once you have already the business here with all your German marketing material and being here. It is just a small step to enter into the Austrian market, and it is not very difficult neither to go into the Swiss market, which is not the European Union, but it is, because of the common language we share, not so difficult to enter there. And if you have an agent here, you might look into that market as well. So the basic thing is, in foreign waters, you will need a local partner. And it is a little bit that we see ourselves facilitating in our consulting company, people who are from abroad who want to import into Germany, and to help them really do the business here. Last point, leading shows and exhibitions. It is important to choose the right ones, and there are many local trade shows and fairs that would like to lure you in and give you the importance to attend their fair and trade show. We recommend normally for companies from abroad not to go to the smaller ones in small cities. but really go to the largest ones. And here are the most relevant trade shows for the food and beverage company, which without any doubt, the Anuga in Cologne is the most important one. If you produce machines and supply parts for the food production industry, Anuga Food Tech at the same venue is a really high recommended option. If you produce furniture or technology parts, also Internorge in Hamburg could be interesting because they have a little bit more focus also on the accompanying parts like furniture, for example, also for the HoReCa business for restaurants and hotels and so on. Organic products, there is no way around the Biofach in Nuremberg, which is really the probably most important trade show for organic products. And if you're in the wine or beverage business, the ProWein in Düsseldorf is the trade show of your choice. Apart from these big ones, in-house exhibitions are also very interesting. And in-house exhibition means that maybe your representative or the import company does a show or trade show in his or her company, where they invite the local people, which are normally the agents which sell then to the end consumers. And that could be interesting to ask the dealers if they're doing any kind of in-house exhibitions. That is regarded in Germany very successful because it's smaller than the big ones. I mean, if you go to Anuga, you have, I don't know how many 100,000 of people coming during 4 days. And the in-house exhibitions are much more focused, more concentrated, and it's easier to establish contact there. So also be aware of social media. Germans are very, very hooked up into LinkedIn and social media things, in panel discussions, in promotions, in the internet. So this is also something that could be regarded as important to be present there. We also have some links. Of course, we will give a handout of this presentation where you can look those up and have those links to the exhibitions in Germany, which might help you find a first step there if you're not already there. And as a last alternative to trade shows, there are also magazines, special interest magazines in Germany, very popular. We have for everything, and for every trade and for every industry, we have a special interest magazine. So that could be interesting, and there are different releases and also influencers and blogs and social media magazines, which could be interesting for you. And that's it basically. So we are open for your questions now. And for the moment, I thank you very much for being with us, and hope you got some interesting insight here. And well, on this part, I would give back to the Chamber of Commerce then in Casablanca.
Thank you, Mr. Schultze. I think it was really interesting to really valuable insights into the German market, and also valuable tips what to consider when entering the German market. Now I would like, si vous voulez poser des questions en français, vous pouvez toujours le faire. Monsieur Dirks va vous répondre en français. Oui, alors bienvenue, vous pouvez écrire vos questions dans le chat. But we already have 2 questions I would like to ask you. The first one is, how do you see the future of processed food in Germany from Morocco? For example, frozen food.
Well, very good question. And of course, it is one of the most not only interesting, but I think developing industries. Because of the working landscape we do have in Germany, people have no time or don't spend any more time in cooking. So pre-produced food is important, processed food is important, whether it is snacks, healthy snacks, or even completely meals. But in comparison to the meals we enjoyed in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, which was mainly industrial food and nobody asked what is inside, it just tastes nice and yummy. Nowadays, processed food is highly regarded as something that has to be healthy. So it is important what components are in there, what ingredients are used, preferably, of course, organic. And I see a lot, if you target processed food, especially to the vegans and to the vegetarians, as an add-on, but also, of course, we are talking here about 10% of the population. 90% still are eating regular and have normal diets and are not vegan and vegetarians. So 90% are still in the classical traditional food. However, in every aspect, low sugar, low fat, having very good ingredients and not some imported colorants and flavors from Asia where you don't know where they come from. If you have this in mind, processed food is really something which will have more and more importance.
Okay, thank you. We have another question regarding the trade fairs. Is it mandatory to have an agent? I had the chance to participate to a BioFach exhibition as a producer in bulk oils, but now I want to push my brand and forward that I don't have a clear vision of how to do it.
Going to a trade show like BioFach, it is not necessary to have an agent there, not at all. If you go yourself and if you prepare your marketing material in at least English, better in German, which is not much because you just need a flyer, some information, and maybe a screen with some basic information in Germany, which is not hard to translate, then you're all set and you can go there. It is, of course, helping in order to have an agent there that directly can be the liaison man there and make the contact. It is a little bit harder if you are all by yourself and having a small booth there and everybody will look, oh, what is he doing? Tomatoes, oh, well, and they pass on. If you have an agent who is well connected and has a network, this agent will and should invite other people to your stand already in before the exhibition. And that helps you get a foot into the industry easier, but it is not mandatory.
Thank you. So we don't have a lot of time anymore, but we will try to answer all your questions still. What are the best channels to use for niche products, such as derivatives of date fruit?
Such as? I did not understand the product.
Date fruits, derivatives of dates.
Dates. Well, this is I would say considered as part of the fruit and vegetable sector. So the best channels in order to get in there, of course, there might be dried dates or there might be fresh dates or packaged and open. So that depends a little bit on the way how you sell the product. We already have some industries and some dates here coming from Tunisia, from Egypt and other countries, Israel as well, I believe. The channels that might be the most important are the organic markets, which are covered in all Germany, which cover the entire market. We have special supermarkets for organic products, and those supermarkets are like 3 or 4 really huge ones. We have 15 in total, which are considerably important, and getting into those supermarkets might be the best and fastest grow possibility for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, he was also specifying on date syrup and date sugar, but I believe it's also the same.
It's the same. Yes.
Okay.
Date sugar is really important and great because we are looking for sugar alternatives all the time here in Germany, and so people are very welcoming these products, and also the buying personnel in the supermarkets and let's say decision makers and the category managers in the big stores. They are very interested in date sugar. Could just give you this like a force do it, because it's really something that might be very interesting right now.
Interesting, yeah. So maybe you can just get in contact with Mr. Schultze, Mr. Bobo, after the webinar. Another question, the last one. Do you see that fruits and vegetables with 0 residue of pesticide will have a place on the German market?
Without pesticides?
Yes.
Okay, well, pesticides, as you see already in the wine business, pesticides are reduced more and more, and they're looking for alternatives. The problem is that the beetles and the bugs are still there, and the insects are still there, damaging the harvest and the product itself. So we need to research more and more, and technology, drone technology, watering technology, all this is helping a lot. If we will ever come to a zero pesticide policy, I don't know if this is possible, but there are technological advancements like coating, special coatings on the vegetables done by sprays, which are biodegradable, and that could be interesting. Of course, everything, I think here all over Europe, everything which has lower and lower pesticides are welcome and well seen, but it is a long way to get there. And it is always a search for the best way in order not to harm the entire infrastructure of the agri landscape and of the fields and everything that grows and lives. So it needs to be considered carefully.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if you permit, we have one last question for maybe 1 minute more. So what is the image of Morocco known as country of origin, especially for organic products? Is it a known country of origin, or do you see that there's still space to maybe market Morocco a little bit more?
Yes, please. Morocco, as Portugal, are seen as very quiet partner countries. Of course, Morocco is present here, and in a sense of we know it does exist, and we see in supermarkets there are some products from there, but it is especially in argan oil and other baobab or other products from Morocco. But still, there is a lot of marketing possibility and chances here to do. I would love to see that really happening, because if you have good products, and since you are a privileged EU partner, this should be receive more and more enforcements in trade shows and also in social media in order to get that. I would welcome that very much. And right now, Morocco is there. It has a positive general aspect. It has no negative images, but it is not very present on a day-to-day basis. So in summer, you might see in some magazines advertisement to doing vacation in Casablanca or in other big cities. But in food products, there's still a lot ground to cover and to do.
Okay, thank you. I think this is a nice ending, a nice encouragement for our participants maybe. And yes, we are already at the end. I would like to thank you a lot, Mr. Schultze, for the very interesting insights. Also to Mr. Dierkes. We didn't have the chance to answer many the questions in French, but still maybe it's good to know for our participants that you can also, that you're available for consultancy in French. And yeah, you can contact, can get in touch with Mr. Schultze and Mr. Dierkes at any time. Many thanks, and yes, I'm looking forward for the next webinar, and we will send the presentation to all participants, and I hope you can also get in touch with them after the webinar. So many thanks, and have a nice day.
Merci
Bye.
beaucoup à tous.
Merci, au revoir.
Au revoir.